picture all, and I know you will be climbing to greater heights, and the cowards will fall below you, looking up to braver sights.
Welcome to Women's History Month. I'm Theater West member and cultural herstory-making Amy Simon, and I'm always asking, where are the women? We have been contributing to the progress of humankind since the beginning of time, but we've mostly been left out of the narrative. This inspired Molly Murphy McGregor, a 26-year-old Los Angeles history teacher, to campaign for what is now Women's History Month. I had the honor of meeting Molly, and she told me this story. It started in 1972 when a boy in her high school U.S. history class asked her, "What is the women's movement?" He had just seen the brand new Ms. magazine. Now, this was a Friday afternoon, and Molly said she was glad because she needed the weekend to come up with the answer. So she said to the boy, "That's a good question." She went home and searched her own personal extensive library of history books and found one book called Freedom Ferment with one chapter on Seneca Falls, which in 1848 was the city where the very first Women's Rights Convention was held. But that was it. So a seed was planted, and Molly began her journey, which ended in 1987 when Congress declared March as Women's History Month. Every year, the president issues a special proclamation. Isn't it amazing what one woman can do? Well, here are a few more amazing, persistent, courageous, trailblazing, fearless, fabulous females who made and make our lives better by making history. Herstory.
Good evening. It is my honor to be here, to stand on the shoulders of those who came before, to speak tonight as your Vice President.
In many ways, this moment embodies our character as a nation. It demonstrates who we are, even in dark times. We not only dream, we do. We not only see what has been, we see what can be. We shoot for the moon, then plant our flag on it. We are bold, fearless, and ambitious. We are undaunted in our belief that we shall overcome. We will rise up. This is American aspiration. American aspiration is what drove the women of this nation throughout history to demand equal rights, and the authors of the Bill of Rights to claim freedoms that have rarely been written down before. A great experiment takes great determination, the will to do the work, and the wisdom to keep refining, keep tinkering, keep perfecting. To unite, to believe in ourselves, to believe in this country, and to believe in what we can do together. Thank you, and may God bless America.
I stand before you today as a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States of America. I am not the candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. I am not the candidate of the women's movement in this country, although I am a woman, and I am equally proud of that. I am not the candidate of any political bosses or fat cats or special interests. I stand here now without any endorsements from many big-name politicians or celebrities or any other kind of prop. I do not intend to offer to you the tired and glib cliches, which for too long have been an accepted part of our political life. I am the candidate of the people of America. I have always earnestly believed in the great potential of America. I stand before you today to repudiate the ridiculous notion that the American people will not vote for qualified candidates simply because he is not right or because she is not a male. Our will can create a new America in 1972, one where there is freedom from violence and war, at home and abroad, where there is freedom from poverty and discrimination. In conclusion, all of you who share this vision, from New York to California, from Wisconsin to Florida, are brothers and sisters on the road to national unity and a new America. Those of you who have been neglected, left out, forgotten, ignored, or shunned aside for whatever reason, give me your help at this hour. Join me in an effort to reshape our society and regain control of our destiny as we go down the Chisholm Trail in 1972.
If there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights, once and for all. Let us not forget that among those rights are the right to speak freely and the right to be heard. Tragically, women are most often the ones whose human rights are violated. Even now, in the late 20th century, the rape of women continues to be used as an instrument of armed conflict. Women and children make up a large majority of the world's refugees. And when women are excluded from the political process, they become even more vulnerable to abuse. These abuses have continued because for far too long, the history of women is a history of silence. Even today, there are those who are trying to silence our words. Women must enjoy the rights to participate fully in the social and political lives of their countries. If we want freedom and democracy to thrive and endure, it is indefensible that many women in non-governmental organizations who wish to participate in this very conference but have not been able to attend or have been prohibited from fully taking part. Let me be clear. Freedom means the right of people to assemble, organize, and debate openly. It means respecting the views of those who may disagree with the views of their own governments. It means not taking citizens away from their loved ones and jailing them, mistreating them, or denying them their freedom of dignity because of the peaceful expression of their ideas, and opinions. In my country, we recently celebrated the 75th anniversary of women's suffrage. It took 150 years after the signing of our Declaration of Independence for women to win the right to vote. It took 72 years of organized struggle before that happened, on the part of many courageous women and men. It was one of America's most divisive philosophical wars. Now is the time to act on behalf of women everywhere. As long as discrimination and inequities remain so commonplace everywhere in the world, as long as girls and women are valued less, fed last, overworked, underpaid, not schooled, and subjected to violence in and outside of their homes, the potential of human family to create a peaceful, prosperous world will not be realized. That is the work before you. That is the work before all of us who have a vision of the world we want to see for our children and grandchildren. The time is now.
I am a free lover. I have an unalienable, constitutional, and natural right to love who I may, to change that love every day if I please. I believe that the marriage institution, like slavery and monarchy, is injurious and is the most terrible curse from which all of humanity now suffers, entailing more misery, sickness, and premature death than all others combined. I believe the most intelligent and virtuous of our citizens have outgrown marriage, are constantly and systematically unfaithful to it, despise and revolt against it, while others of my sex have devoted themselves to a crusade against the laws that shackle the women of this country. I asserted my individual independence, while others sought to show that there is no valid reason why women should be treated socially and politically as inferior to man. I boldly entered the arena of business. I, therefore, claim the right to speak for the disenfranchised women of this country. I now announce myself as candidate for the presidency. I anticipate criticism.
It is a moment. It is a moment for which we have waited over 200 years. Never losing faith, we have waited through the many years of struggle to achieve our rights. But women weren't just waiting. Women were working. Never losing faith, we work to redeem the promise of America that all men and women are created equal. For our daughters and granddaughters, today we have broken the marble ceiling. The sky is the limit. Anything is possible for them.
May it please your honor, I shall never pay $1 of your unjust penalty. All the stock in trade I possess is a $10,000 debt incurred by publishing my paper, The Revolution, the sole purpose of which was to educate all women to do precisely as I have done. Rebel against your man-made, unjust, unconstitutional forms of law that tax, fine, imprison, and hang women while denying them the right of representation in the government. And I shall work on with might and main to pay back every dollar of that honest debt. But not one penny shall go to this unjust claim. And I shall earnestly and persistently continue to urge all women that resistance to tyranny is obedience to God.
This is the year of women's liberation. Or at least it is the year the press has discovered a movement that has been strong for several years now and reported it as a small, privileged, rather lunatic event. The important thing is that we are considering the larger implications of a movement that some call feminist, but should more accurately be called humanist. A movement that is an integral part of rescuing this country from its old, expensive patterns of elitism, racism, and violence. The first problem for all of us, men and women, is not to learn, but to unlearn. The popular wisdom of several centuries has been patriotism means obedience, age means wisdom, woman means submission, Black means inferior. These are preconceptions embedded so deeply in our thinking that we honestly may not even know that they're there. Our histories have generally been written for and about white men. We need women's studies almost as much as we need Black studies, and for exactly the same reason. Too many of us have been allowed from a good education, believing that everything from political power to scientific discovery was the province of white males. We believe, for instance, that the vote had been given to women in some whimsical, benevolent fashion. We never learned about the long desperation of women's struggle or about the strength and wisdom of the women who led it. We heard about the men who risked their lives in the abolitionist movement, but seldom about the women, even though women had played the major role. Anonymous, Virginia Woolf once said sadly, was a woman. No wonder women do less well in business, says a woman executive. They don't have wives. You don't have to play one role in this revolutionary age above all others. If you're willing to pay the price for it, you can do anything you want to do. And the price is worth it.
I resorted to the hunger strike method twice. I was clapped into jail 3 times while in England, and during my first and second terms, I refused to eat. Then the authorities decided to feed me by force. I refused to wear the prison garb, too, and would not perform the labor that I was sentenced to do, so of course I had to spend my days in bed. When the forcible feedings was ordered, I was carried from my bed, taken to another room, and forced into a chair, bound by sheets, and sat upon bodily by a fat murderer whose duty it was to keep me still. Then the prison doctor, assisted by 2 women attendants, placed a rubber tube up my nostrils and pumped liquid food through it to the stomach. Twice a day for a month. From November 1st to December 1st. This was done. Mr. Wilson opposes suffrage, and we oppose him. We women of America tell you that America is not a democracy. 20 million women are denied the right to vote. Unless women are prepared to fight politically, they must be content to be ignored politically.
To the graduating class of 2019, thank you for having me here today. You are the architects of our better lives. I made a plan for my life, but what I was trying to do was prepare to succeed, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Some of you may have heard in 2018, I ran for the governor of Georgia. And the first few weeks after I announced my candidacy, I did what you're supposed to do in politics, which is to reach out to your friends and family, to start to raise the absurd amounts of money it takes to try to become an elected official. My family has no money, so I mostly started to call friends. I grew up in poverty in Mississippi, a working class poverty my mom called the genteel poor. We had no money, but we watched PBS and we read books. My parents would wake us up on Saturdays and go to serve, and to take us to soup kitchens and homeless shelters, to juvenile justice facilities and nursing homes. And in this process, I raised over $42 million, the most raised by any candidate in Georgia history. But it didn't start out that way. You see, I started calling friends, people who stood with me at every turn. But over and over again, I would call and I would hear, Stacey, we think you're so talented. Stacey, we think you're so qualified, but you're a black woman. I was like, I know. But they whispered it to me as though they were giving me a terminal diagnosis. People I've known for years kept telling me that I wasn't ready for this. In fact, it was suggested that I support the person running and just ask for a role in her administration. That didn't work for me then, and it doesn't work for me now. I was told to wait until Georgia was ready for me. I was told to wait my turn. Each of you harbors a dream that seems outsized, maybe even too big to admit to yourselves. You see, I've talked about my dreams publicly, and I plan to be President of the United States. I ran for governor of Georgia because I believe in a better world. I believe voter suppression is real and a threat to our democracy. I believe in the United States of America.
Well, children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women out the North, all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with a mother's grief, and none but Jesus heard me, and ain't I a woman? Then they talk about this thing in the head. What's this they call it? That's it, honey, intellect. What's that got to do with a woman's right or Negro's rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint, and yourn holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have a little half measure full? Then that little man in black over there, he says women can't have as much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they is asking to do it. The men better let 'em. Obliged to you for hearing me. And now old Sojourner ain't got nothing more to say.
Dear friends, as of the 9th of October 2012, the Taliban shot me on the left side of my forehead. They shot my friends, too. They thought that the bullets would silence us, but they failed. And then out of that silence came thousands of voices. The terrorists thought that they would change our aims and stop our ambitions, but nothing in my life changed except this. Weakness, fear, and hopelessness died. Strength, power, and courage was born. I am the same Malala. I cannot believe how much love people have shown me. I have received thousands of good wish cards and gifts from all over the world. Thank you to all of them. Thousands of people have been killed by the terrorists, and millions have been injured. I am just one of them. So here I stand, one girl among many. I speak not for myself, but for all the girls and boys. I raise up my voice not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. Those who have fought for their rights. Their right to live in peace. Their right to be treated with dignity. Their right to equality of opportunity. Their right to be educated. The wise saying, the pen is mightier than the sword, is true. The extremists are afraid of books and pens. The power of education frightens them. They are afraid of women. Dear brothers and sisters, we want schools and education for every child's bright future. We will continue our journey to our destination of peace and education for everyone. No one can stop us. We will speak for our rights and we will bring change through our voice. We must believe in the power and the strength of our words. Our words can change the world.
Oh, I long to hear that you have declared an independency. And by the way, in the new code of laws, which I suppose it will be necessary for you to make, I would desire that you remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of husbands. Remember that all men would be tyrants if they could. And if particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to form a rebellion, and we will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation. That your sex is so naturally tyrannical is a truth so thoroughly established as to admit of no dispute. But such of you as wish to be happy willingly give up the harsh title of master for the more tender and endearing one of friend. Not having an opportunity of sending this, I shall add a few lines more, though not with a heart so gay. I have been attending the sick chamber of our neighbor Trot, whose affliction I most sensibly feel but cannot describe. Stripped of 2 lovely children in 1 week. George, the eldest, died on Wednesday, and Billy, the youngest, on Friday. With canker fever, a terrible disorder so much like the throat distemper that it differs but little from it. Betsy Cranch has been very bad, but is upon the recovery. Becky Peck, they do not expect will live out the day. Many grown persons are now sick with it. In this street, 5. It rages much in other towns. The mumps, too, are frequent. Isaac is now confined with it. Our own little flock are yet well. My heart trembles with anxiety for them. Every one of your friends sends their regards, and all the little ones too. Your brother's youngest child lies bad with convulsion fits. Adieu. I need not say how much I am your faithful friend.